Hello everyone, Michael O'Brien here, and today we're going to talk about the importance of showing up to your gigs. Welcome back everyone to another episode of Advice for Magicians, where the goal is to help you to take your magic to the next level. Now in today's video, we're going to talk about the importance of showing up to your gigs, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, duh, like if I book a gig, I got paid to do the gig, obviously I need to show up to the gig, right? But I'm not really talking about just the general duh of the situation. I'm going to kind of get into the weeds a little bit and talk about some interesting situations that might come up. Not too long ago in one of the Facebook forums, someone asked this question where they were paid a deposit, and at the time of the deposit being paid, they did not hear again from the client. The client essentially ghosted them for weeks on end. And then it's like 24 hours away from the big day, and the magician is like reaching out. The client's completely ghosting them, no communication at all. For all the magician knows, the gig isn't even still on or whatever, so the magician didn't show up. And then of course the next day I got a really angry message from the client. So we're going to talk about all of that stuff. Like I said, it's not quite as black and white as it may seem, depending on some situations and stuff. But we're going to talk about all of that after these announcements. If you have not already done so, please make sure to click the subscribe button and don't forget to ring the bell. That way you know every time I upload a new video. If you'd like to support the channel for just $1 a month, please be sure to click the join button and become a Mob Squad member. Members get access to a bunch of cool stuff, including tutorials, early access to videos, emojis, badges, and even discounts in the O'Brien Magic Shop. All that for just $1 a month. And on top of that, I'll even shout your name out on the channel, just like these fine folks. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Roast Chicken, William Ruff, and Tanner. Thank you guys so much for becoming members. It is because of your support and all of the support of my subscribers and everyone else who likes to watch my videos that I'm able to keep this channel going. So a huge thank you to all of you guys for all of the love and support. It really means a lot from the bottom of my heart. So let's go ahead and kind of dive into this a little bit. Now, in this particular situation that I just told you guys about, the magician had it built into their contract that if they are not paid the remaining balance, I want to say it was 24 hours in advance or before the performance starts, or I don't know how they worded their contract. It all kind of depends, right? But let's just say in this situation, the contract stipulates that if they were not paid within 24 hours of the event, they lose their security deposit and the magician isn't going to show up, right? Let's just say that that was in their contract and this client ghosted that person. Technically speaking, the magician is in the right because it was understood that the magician was going to be paid within, before the 24 hours window expired. And the reason that you do that is to prevent things like you showing up to the gig and the gig not happening, right? You drove all the way there and then the client goes, oh, sorry, we forgot to tell you we canceled, right? And now you just wasted all your time and your gas, especially if you're driving a great distance. Like if you have like a gig that's like an hour, 2, 3 hours away, of course you don't want to spend 3 hours driving only to then be told, sorry, we don't need you anymore, right? So I understand why magicians do that. But let me go ahead and give you my honest opinion on the situation now. Let's just say that that clause is in your contract and it does say that you need to be paid within 24 hours before the gig or whatever. Minimum 24 hours, right? So in other words, if it's like the next day and they still haven't paid you, technically in your contract, you don't have to show up anymore until they pay you, right? Let's just say that's the case. I would still show up to the gig. I would show up with my smiley face, my friendly personality, and I would let them know, hey, my friend, you needed to pay me yesterday and I still haven't been paid yet. I'm happy to go ahead and perform and entertain all of your friends and all your family and everything like that. But I do need you to go ahead and close the remaining balance for me. And of course, if the client gives you a hard time about this, as long as you've been very polite and very professional and letting them know, like multiple times in advance, right? So like this person said that 3 weeks out, they sent a message, no response. 2 weeks out, no response. 1 week out, no response. 3 days before, no response. The day before, no response. So they reached out like 4 or 5 times and were completely ghosted, right? Now, from what I understand, the client then turned around and said, well, I didn't get any emails from you. Okay. So email, calls. I don't know why the magician wouldn't call. Maybe they did. I don't know. They didn't say that they did in the post. Call them, right? Call the planner, whoever the person is in charge of catering and getting all of the flowers and everything done. Whoever that person is, the entertainment director, whoever that person is that they hired to take care of all that stuff. Contact that person too and say, hey, I haven't been able to get a hold of the bride, the groom. I just wanted to discuss the details of the event with them. Can you please get them in touch with me, right? It's very important. All of this stuff. You need to dot all of your T's and cross all of your I's, right? So to speak. Cross your I's. And the reason for that is because let's just say you don't show up, even though it was in your contract that you didn't have to show up. That's still a really good way to get a negative review. It's still a really good way to have word go around about you that you're not reliable and that you don't show up and all this stuff. So what I'm trying to say is, even if it is in your contract that you don't have to show up if you haven't been paid, unless it's like ridiculously far, and to me, a 2-hour, 3-hour drive isn't necessarily ridiculously far, especially here in Los Angeles. I live in San Bernardino and I do gigs in Newport and Laguna and all that stuff all the time. San Diego, and those gigs are 2 hours minimum away usually. So I'm used to just driving those 2 hours one way to get somewhere. Now, all of these things should be factored into your security deposit. So let's talk about security deposits and contracts now. For me, the way that I book my events is I tell the client how much I charge. If they agree to that price, awesome. I send them an invoice, and with the invoice is a terms and conditions a contract. Now, it's not like a super technical, like 10,000 page contract. All the contract says is, these are the details that we agreed on, how long I'm going to be there for, what day the gig is on, where it's going to be located, how much money the client agrees to pay, all of these things, right? And then on top of that, the payment clause, which talks about security deposits and remaining balance, as well as additional fees incurred, right? And when I say additional fees, I mean things like I show up to the gig and it turns out I have to park in a parking structure and it costs me $20 to park in that parking structure. Well, I'm going to pass that $20 fee on to the client. They are going to have to pay that for me. So all that stuff is in the contract. But for the security deposit, I ask for 50% down. I will not even put them in my calendar. I will pretend like I haven't even booked it yet until they've at least paid 50% the deposit. They're welcome to pay the full thing in advance if they want to. They could pay it all in one lump payment and I'll book them in, but they have to put down at least a 50% deposit. And after 72 hours has gone by, that 50% deposit is no longer refundable. So they put in the deposit, 72 hours goes by, and now they're locked in. They cannot get that money back. And for me, the security deposit does a couple of things. Number one, it tells them, you know what? I trust you that you're going to hold up your end of the bargain and book this event, right? That I'm actually going to show up and you're actually going to be there and you're actually going to have me there. That way you don't show up and there's like another magician there, right? And the other magician is doing his thing and you're just like, this is kind of awkward, right? What do we do now? Because that's happened a couple times where I've been double booked. This guy actually booked me and forgot that he booked me and then booked another magician. So I showed up. Now, it's a funny story. I knew the other magician, so it actually ended up being a lot of fun. We hung out the whole time and like did like magic back and forth to different people and stuff. And it ended up being a fun thing. The client was like, oh my God, I completely forgot that I booked you. I'm so sorry. Let me go ahead and pay you too. So he ended up just booking the two of us and we both did the gig together, right? So what it does is it prevents things like that from happening. Now, had I showed up and the guy was like, ooh, yeah, so I accidentally booked another guy. Sorry, we don't need you. You're welcome to go ahead and grab some food if you want and then go home, right? For me, that security deposit's going to cover all of that stuff. It's going to cover my travel, and it's also going to be put in my calendar, meaning if other gigs come up, other clients want to book me for that date, that basically gives me peace of mind that I'm at least going to make that 50% off of that so that, when it comes time to do the gig, if I show up and they didn't give me any deposit and then they say, oh, sorry, we don't need you anymore. Now I just turned away gigs and I drove all this way and I didn't get paid anything, right? So your deposit in your mind should cover peace of mind, knowing that the date is secured and that you're actually going to get paid something for it. It's also going to allow you to put them in the calendar so that you're not worried about turning away other work and then you show up to this gig and you end up not working anyway, right? It's going to help prevent all of those things. It's going to cover your cost of travel. It's going to cover the cost of whatever props that you needed to buy. I don't know, if you're doing a kids show and you needed to go buy balloons or party hats or whatever the client wanted you to book, you have them pay you for all of that stuff up front. So any money that you're going to spend on that stuff, you're covered for, right? And then absolute worst case scenario, you just eat the remaining balance. Now, you could have in your contract, if I show up and I'm there and then you decide you don't want me anymore, you still owe me the remaining balance because I held up my end of the bargain and I showed up, right? You can have that in your contract, but you need to show up. If you don't show up, it's going to be even harder. Let's just say this goes to small claims court, right? Let's just say you took it that far. You go to small claims court and the judge is like, well, did you go? Did you show up? Like, you delivered the product and they didn't pay you, right? Well, no, you see, like, I couldn't get a hold of them and they kind of like ghosted me, and so I didn't really bother going. And the judge will look at you, but you're asking for the full amount of the money, but you didn't do the service that they paid you for. You didn't show up, right? I've watched enough Judge Judy to know how these things go. There is a chance that you could lose that case and you won't get paid and you'll end up owing more money because you'll have to pay like small court fees and all that stuff. So unless it's an unreasonably far distance, it's like a distance you have to get in a plane and travel or something like that, you need to make sure that you show up to the event knowing there's a possibility you might not get paid the rest of the money that you're owed. Do this and I promise you things will be a lot better. I mean, if this guy just showed up, the person probably would have been like, oh man, yeah, I'm so sorry I didn't get any of your emails. Because there is a chance the guy didn't get the emails, right? If I had a nickel for every time I sent a really important email to someone and then they fired back like a week later, like, hey, you never reached out to me. And I'm like, yeah, I did. Look, here it is right here. And I go to look and it says to Michael O'Brien because I accidentally sent the email to myself. I didn't send the email to the client. Like, that has happened to me a few times, right? So these things happen. So there is a chance that the client never got anything from them, and you're not the only person that they're booking. They're booking you, they're booking the photographer, they're booking the catering company, they're booking the flowers, they're booking the venue, they're booking all of these things, right? So it's very, very, very important that you show up, even if you haven't been paid yet, right? Now, if you haven't been paid a single dollar, that's a different story, but that's why I always collect a security deposit. I will not drive to their location. I will not even put them in my calendar without a security. But once they've paid their security deposit, you need to show up. You need to hold up your end of the bargain now. Now, if you show up and they just refuse to pay you at that point, that's fine. You just pack up your stuff and you leave. I'm not saying you have to do the show, but you need to at least show your face there, right? Your smiling, happy face. Hello, my friend, I'm here and I'm more than happy to get started. All I ask is that you please go ahead and honor your end of the agreement and pay the remaining balance. If they do that, green light, you go ahead and do the show. And then if they don't do that, you pack up. And if they try to say, well, you didn't do the show, you can say, I showed up, but you never paid me. But if you don't show up, it kind of hurts your credibility a little bit. Anyways, sorry, that was a longer video than I wanted it to be. I know I rambled just a little bit, but I really wanted to drive this in. It's very, very important. And I'm not at all saying that what that person did was wrong necessarily. I just know that they're in a situation now where they're probably going to even have to end up refunding the security deposit because they didn't show up at all and they didn't do anything. And just to avoid all that, avoid the headache, just show up to the gig. And if they don't pay you, the only thing you're out is your time. But like I said, not really, because you've already kind of been paid for it. You've already been paid for they paid you the security deposit. The way that I look at it is, whoa, dude, I just made $500 to like not do anything and just get in my car and drive 2 hours one way and stand there for an hour and then be told that you're not going to pay me and then get back in my car and drive. I lost 5 hours, but I got paid $500 for those 5 hours to literally not have to do anything. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Show up to your gigs. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already done so, make sure to click the subscribe button and don't forget to ring the bell. That way you'll know every time I upload a new video. If you'd like to check out some more magic, visit us at obrienmagic.com and be sure to check out our online magic shop where you will find the latest and greatest magic books, downloads, and accessories.